Corin's footsteps echoed through the marble halls of Namarith's crumbling academy, his lantern casting small circles of gold on ruined mosaics. Midnight pressed against high, stained-glass windows, and the silence felt thick enough to cling to his skin. It was never this quiet. Usually the wards hummed and students whispered secrets. But tonight, a storm boiled over the city, and every sensible soul hid behind locked doors. Every soul but Corin, apprentice to a master who never noticed him, and the only witness to flickering lights beneath the forbidden archives. He froze as a low growl rippled from the shadows ahead. Corin hugged his satchel closer, heart hammering. "Easy, it's just rats," he whispered, though he didn't quite believe it. From the corner something gleamed, a polished brass lantern nestled atop a broken pedestal, flickered with a strange, swirling radiance. The old legends pricked at Corin's mind. The Lantern of Namarith, keeper of the last spark of creation. He edged closer, the air crackling with ancient power. As he reached for it, a voice rasped, "That relic is not for the likes of you." Startled, Corin turned to find an imposing figure in a hooded cloak, face shrouded in shadow. The lantern shimmered brighter in defiance, casting long shadows along the walls. Outside, thunder crashed, rattling the stained glass. "It called to me," Corin blurted, surprised by his own courage. "I heard it." The figure stepped closer, inspecting Corin with eyes as sharp as daggers. Many claim the lantern's light, but few possess a heart wild enough to bear its burden. Corin swallowed, clinging to determination. "I need to know what's inside. Why did it call me?" "Only a fool chases after riddles in the night," the figure said, but there was a hint of respect in their voice. "Or a hero in the making." At that moment, the floor trembled, stone shifted, dust swirling up into twisting shapes, faces, claws, hungry mouths. Shadow-forged creatures clawed into existence from cracks in the marble, eyes glinting with unnatural hunger. The hooded figure unsheathed a curved blade from under their cloak, tossing a warning glance at Corin. "If you want the lantern, you'll have to fight for your own dawn. Stand and run, or stand and survive. Your choice, apprentice." Corin felt fear burning in his chest, but something stronger, hope perhaps or desperation, took root. He raised the lantern. It pulsed in his grip, a single spark flaring brighter than the storm outside. Tonight, for the first time, Corin realized the shadows feared the light as much as he feared them. "I'll stand," he said, voice not quite steady, but steadier than before. The battle for the Lantern of Namarith had begun. The lantern's glow carved a circle of safety in the swirling gloom, its spark glinting off Corin's sweating face. The shadow creatures crept forward, living darkness given form, bristling with slashing limbs and hollow hungry eyes. Corin's hand shook, but the hooded strangers was steady as they slashed through a wraith, scattering it into smoky wisps. Corin pressed his back to the pedestal, clutching the lantern tighter with every passing second. "Keep it high," the stranger barked. They moved with terrifying grace, blade a silver streak. "Focus! The lantern will respond if you will it." I don't know how," Corin cried, fending off a shadow that snapped at his ankles. With mounting panic, he glanced into the lantern's core. Wisps of fire and mist swirled within like a living storm. "Want the light," the stranger barked. "Believe you deserve it." Something awoke inside Corin, a stubborn refusal to be helpless. As he braced himself, the lantern pulsed, a beam lancing through the gloom. Shadows wailed, recoiling from the brilliance. The stranger laughed, fierce and wild. "That's it, apprentice!" But the respite was short-lived. The darkness coiled and surged, pressing in. Corin could feel the lantern pulling at him, staring back with something almost like recognition or warning. "They won't stop until you leave or fall," the stranger said, voice tight. "What's your name?" "Corin," he shouted. "I'm Lysara. You have to trust me, Corin. We can't hold them forever. The lantern mustn't fall into their grasp. Will you run, or will you follow me deeper?" In the space of a breath, Corin decided. "Deeper. I want to know the truth." Lysara nodded grimly, motioning to a spiraling staircase half hidden by tattered banners. "Then keep that spark close and your feet quicker still. The archives hide more than books." As they ran, the shadows skittered in pursuit, jaws snapping at the edges of the light. Corin cast one last glance back, knowing his life as an overlooked apprentice had just ended, replaced by something far more dangerous and wondrous. The lantern's riddle danced at the bottom of his mind. What endures when the world goes dark? Down they plunged, towards secrets that only the courageous or the doomed dared seek. The staircase twisted deep beneath the academy, each step slick with moss and whisper-thin cobwebs. Corin clung to the warm weight of the lantern, every flicker throwing monstrous shadows on the walls. Lysara led, swift and silent, her cloak brushing ancient murals that flared to life as the lantern approached, images of phoenixes and stars, and a hooded figure holding a lantern aloft against endless darkness. They finally burst into a vast chamber littered with relics, cracked hourglasses, broken swords, stones glowing with inner fire. Rows of bookshelves groaned under the strain of forgotten secrets. Lysara spun, blade raised, while Corin scanned the room for danger. "Where are we?" Corin asked, his voice echoing. "The Heart Vault. Place where Namarith hid what couldn't be trusted in the open." Lysara's eyes lingered on the lantern. "But it's more than a vault, it remembers who enters." No sooner had she spoken than a heavy door slammed somewhere behind them. Runes on the floor blinked awake, tracing lines of gold through shadow. The lantern's spark grew restless, and the air thrummed with warnings. A low snarl floated from the gloom above, a pale creature, part mist and part bone, uncurled from the rafters. "You have brought the heart's flame," it hissed, "and so the taste of endings." Corin stumbled back, holding the lantern high. "Stay away!" The thing recoiled, its eyes locked to the dancing light. Lysara circled to Corin's side. "You want answers, Corin? This is your test. Speak to it. Command it." Hands shaking, Corin met the monster's gaze. "Why do you fear the lantern?" Its voice was all winter and ashes. "It burns what is false. Only the true bear it without pain." Corin's mind whirled with memories of his lonely, overlooked life, the ache of never being chosen, never belonging. Something hardened inside him. "Then I'll prove I'm worthy." He stepped closer, light dazzling the wraith. The creature screeched, twisting, shrinking away. The lantern flared, and suddenly Corin could see the path forward, a new archway blooming open with trailing golden vines. Lysara touched his arm, eyes shining. "Well done, apprentice. Trust yourself. It's the only way forward through this darkness." Together, they marched into the unknown, the lantern's light growing steadier with every step, burning a path between the lingering shadows and the secrets that still waited deep in the bones of Namarith. The tunnel beyond the archway was choked with curling roots, their edges shimmering with a phantom blue. The lantern was heavier now, its spark pulsing in time to Corin's heartbeat. Lysara kept pace, eyes alert for new threats, her confidence reassuring but never careless. The air changed, wetter, sweeter, as they stepped into a hidden world tangled with gigantic, luminous flowers. Their petals hummed softly, echoing with the memories of Namarith. Corin stared up in awe. A dozen ghostly images flickering in the lantern's glass. A child with a crown, a star collapsing, a weeping willow shedding tears of light. A sharp yowl jolted them. From behind a thicket of silver ferns, a figure tumbled into view, small, with pointed ears and wild tangled hair. He wore patchwork robes, one sleeve missing, clutching a heavy tome covered in shifting script. "Intruders," he barked, voice quivering. "Or worse, thieves! What business do you have here in my sanctuary?" Lysara flashed her blade. "Step aside, Fae. We want only safe passage." But Corin spotted terror behind the bluster, the same fear he'd once known, huddled in academy corners. He lowered the lantern. "We're not thieves, please. We're looking for answers, for hope." The Fae's golden eyes darted from Corin to the lantern, suspicion then wonder growing. "You bear the heart spark. No one's done that in an age. The lantern only answers the worthy, or the desperate. Which are you?" "Maybe both," Corin admitted quietly. A heavy silence. Then the Fae's mouth twitched into a reluctant grin. "I'm Flint, keeper of the verdant between. I know the lantern's riddle, but not its answer. Maybe together." He trailed off, eyes glinting with a mischief clearly masking loneliness. "Maybe together, we won't be so alone." Lysara's grip eased. Flint tucked his tome under his arm, brushing petals away. "Follow me. There's a place ahead safe from the darkness for a short while, but beware. The deeper you travel, the more the lantern demands of you." Corin nodded, the lantern's light twining with Flint's laughter and Lysara's cautious stride as they pressed deeper beneath Namarith. Behind them, unseen, shadows stirred anew, hungrier than ever, and no longer afraid of just the light. They moved through Flint's hidden world, where glassy roots tangled over runes and forgotten altars broke the soil. Flint scampered ahead, plucking strange blue berries and tossing them to Corin, who caught one gingerly and sniffed it. "Don't eat it unless you want to see yesterday's dreams," Flint said, eyes twinkling. Lysara marched beside them, nerves taut as bowstring. "He's right about the lantern," she muttered quietly to Corin so Flint couldn't hear. "The more you use it, the deeper it draws from you. And if you run empty—" Corin swallowed, forcing confidence. "Then I won't let it take more than I can give." They reached a ring of ancient stones, threaded with silvery moss and audibly thrumming like a heartbeat. Flint bowed with a dramatic sweep. "Sanctuary, at least for an hour. The shadows can't cross the circle, but they'll wait. They always wait." Corin gazed into the lantern, watching the spark swirl, casting flurried scenes. Creatures of mist, an endless night, a crown of flame. Is there really a riddle? Can it be solved? Flint's smile faded. The lantern asks, what endures when the world goes dark? Namarith's greatest minds failed to answer. Some went mad, some vanished. Lysara knelt beside the stones, setting her sword down so she could cast dust into the air, revealing slithering shadows just outside the sanctuary. We don't have ages. The darkness is growing. Namarith may already be lost. Corin met her gaze, the weight of responsibility anchoring him. We're not finished yet. There's still hope. There has to be. For a long moment, Flint and Lysara just stared at him, measuring him anew. Flint broke first, a low chuckle tumbling out. Hope is dangerous for outcasts like us. Corin searched the lantern, thinking not of what he'd lost, but what he could become. Or it's the only thing shadows can't swallow. Above them the roots trembled and the moss stones shimmered, signs that someone, or something, was forcing its way through the darkness. The hour of sanctuary would soon end. But Corin's spark burned a shade brighter, fed by trust and hard-won courage. In the flickering half-light, the three allies braced for what would come next, unknowing but not alone. The mossy stones quivered harder, sparkling with sweat like dew. A chill swept the sanctuary, and Lysara's blade leapt back into her hand. Somewhere beyond, a bestial howl rang through the roots, a signal, or maybe a challenge. Flint pressed his book against his chest, voice low. Nothing stays safe long. If you want answers, apprentice, you have to face what hunts you. We just need time, Corin whispered, eyeing the lantern. He remembered the riddle. What endures when the world goes dark? Each time he asked, the spark grew, as if wanting to answer yet waiting for him to earn it. The hour expired with a resounding crack, light from the stones flickering and dying. Darkness surged in, shapeless, awful, rushing like water. Lysara dropped to a defensive stance. Flint traced sigils in the dirt, murmuring spells. Corin gripped the lantern. Shadows lunged, talons scraping. Now, lantern! Lysara shouted. Corin closed his eyes, heart racing. He focused on hope, Flint's bravado, Lysara's resolve, the warmth he remembered from his mother's embrace. The lantern erupted, driving a barrier of gold fire through the black. Grotesque shapes recoiled, howling, but one pressed forward, a shadow-crowned, many-armed specter. Flint gasped. The night thing. It's real. It's here. The creature loomed over the circle, its voice scraping like dry leaves. Give me the spark. All hope ends tonight. Corin trembled, but some fire inside him refused to surrender. You want it? Then answer the riddle. What endures when the world goes dark? The night thing recoiled, momentarily uncertain. Nothing endures. Only night remains. Corin lifted the lantern higher. You're wrong. Trust endures. Hope endures. Us together, we endure. A burst of pure light seared from the lantern's heart, arcing like dawn through black. The night thing shrieked and lashed out, shattering the moss stones, but the trio dove through the sudden opening, racing deeper as the night raged behind them. They stumbled through twisted corridors, lantern blazing past runes and roots and countless doors. The passage seemed endless. Corin's legs screamed with exhaustion, but he still carried hope like a shield. Deeper still they ran, into the oldest, most secret heart of Namarith, where the shadows dared not yet rule, and the final answers waited. Exhausted, bruised, and flecked with mud, Corin, Lysara, and Flint staggered into a cavern of crystal roots. Light shimmered in delicate webs overhead, untouched by darkness. The lantern's spark pulsed hungrily, guiding them onward. Where are we? Flint breathed, mesmerized by the crystalline glow. Lysara's voice dropped to a reverent hush. This must be the veiled roots, oldest part of Namarith, where magic was born and the world kept its first secrets, and its pain. Corin studied the arching roots, Each shimmered with images, 100 faces, dreams, and nightmares flickering for an instant. The lantern tugged him forward, and the cavern filled with gentle song, a tapestry of all the hopes and heartbreaks that had passed through the city. "This place, it's beautiful," Corin whispered. Yet the lantern's light flickered, not brighter but deeper, as if searching for something lost. Flint sidled closer, lowering his voice. "The night thing will come again. Its hunger's never sated." Before Corin could respond, a shape separated from the crystal wall, a ghostly woman, crowned with withering vines and stars, eyes deep as midnight. "You come bearing the final spark," she intoned, her voice at once kind and sorrowful. "The world is dying, child. Namarith crumbles because its people forgot what truly endures." Lysara held out her sword. "We have not forgotten. We fight for hope." The spirit regarded them, sadness softening her gaze. "Hope is a fragile flame. It must be protected, shared, never hoarded." Corin stepped forward, lantern aloft. "Is that the answer to the riddle?" "Every bearer must find their own answer," the spirit replied, voice echoing through the roots. "But remember, the lantern is not salvation. It is a promise, a challenge. Will you share its light or burn alone?" The cavern trembled. Distant, furious howls signaled the night thing was near once more. The roots flickered, some dying, others flaring in silent defiance. "We won't run," Corin declared, courage swelling. "We'll face the darkness together and share whatever hope we have left." The spirit nodded, fading like mist. "Then the choice is yours. Only united will you restore what was lost. Only then will the world see dawn again." The lantern blazed deeper gold, casting new paths through the crystal forest. With the darkness stalking ever closer, Corin and his friends marched on, braver, more determined, and with the first glimmer of an answer in their hearts. The crystal forest deepened, the paths beneath Corin's feet pulsing in rhythm with his heart. Every step brought the trio closer to the lantern's core secret, but also to the echoing clamor of the night thing behind them. Flint stumbled, wincing as the shimmering ground cracked under his shoe. "We're running out of time. We can't outrun it forever." Lysara glanced back, sweat on her brow, voice tight. "No more running, Flint. If we flee now, the lantern's spark dies with us. It feeds on what we give it. Courage, trust, purpose." Corin's thoughts whirled. For so long he'd hidden from challenges, always doubting. Now he stood as humanity's last hope against the storm. He steadied his breath, gaze falling on Flint and Lysara by his side. A hush fell. The next archway glimmered ahead, a swirling portal of crystal branches and spinning glyphs. It hummed at Corin's approach as if begging to be unlocked. "There's no going back," Corin said softly. "If we leave, the night thing consumes everything, not just the lantern. If we stay, there's a chance. It's slim, but it's real." Flint grinned weakly, tucking his tome away. "I suppose an impossible chance is better than none." Lysara squeezed Corin's arm, voice strong. "We came here for a reason. We finish this together." The lantern in Corin's grip strained and pulsed, opening its glass to show a final vision. An endless night swallowing Namarith, then a single hand, his hand, raising the lantern high, splitting the darkness with shared light. He answered aloud, voice resonant. "We endure by sharing hope, not holding it but giving it away. That's the answer. That's what the lantern wants." As the words settled over them, the night thing's shape finally loomed at the forest's edge, vaster than before, crowned in shattered starlight. Its voice tore through the air, insidious and cold. "Give me the spark! Let all hope perish!" Corin raised the lantern, bracing himself for the final test. Flint and Lysara flanked him, faces shining with the same wild flicker of hope. "No more running," Corin declared, voice trembling but defiant. "Tonight, hope burns for all." They stepped into the archway, the crystalline light closing behind them, sealing their stand and the fate of Namarith to the outcome of what came next. Inside the final chamber, the world narrowed into a single echoing space. Vast as a cathedral, its vaulted ceiling lost in glittering darkness. Hundreds of crystal columns spiraled up, glowing with the faintest embers of forgotten dreams. In the center floated a dais, and upon it sat an ancient altar, carved with the same riddle that tormented Corin. What endures when the world goes dark? The night thing oozed through the entry behind them, twice as monstrous here, its form flickering with every fear and doubt Namarith had ever contained. It shrieked, and each crystal shivered. Lysara planted her feet, sword outstretched. Flint scattered powder from his tome, weaving a barrier of pale fire around the dice. Yet Corin sensed it would only hold for moments. The lantern's light sputtered. Its flame seemed weaker, drawing from Corin's last wells of strength and certainty. He remembered every lonely night, every moment he'd almost given up. "I don't know if I'm enough," Corin whispered, shoulders sagging. Flint touched his hand, voice fierce. "If you weren't, the lantern never would have chosen you." Lysara stepped close, her own composure wavering. "Let us give what's left. Share your hope, and let ours kindle it." The air shook as the night thing threw itself at the barrier. Cracks splayed like spiderwebs, shattering the crystal's glow. It hissed, "Hope is a lie, born to fail. Choose darkness. Be safe in defeat." But Corin looked at his friends, his allies, and straight into the lantern's dying spark. With every ounce of will, he opened his heart. "I share this hope," Corin screamed, and the lantern's spark splintered into rays, rushing into Lysara and Flint, then out into the dark chamber, filling the crystal pillars with life. Memories brightened, laughter, tender goodbyes, the courage to try again. Every ember flared, burning back the shadows inch by inch. The night thing howled, shrinking as the hope grew. Yet it fought on, striking at Corin, trying to claw hope from his chest. Each blow left Corin weaker, the lantern heavier, the outcome balanced on a knife's edge. But for every doubt that struck Corin down, two new voices, Flint's, Lysara's, rose up beside him. The lantern didn't belong to one hero, it belonged to all who dared believe in dawn. Light boiled across the altar, the chamber shaking as the final standoff began. The night thing gathered one last, monstrous surge of dark. Corin and his friends, exhausted but unyielding, stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to risk everything, but for everyone who ever wished for light. In that suspended moment, hope and shadow balanced in an impossible dance, the fate of Namarith and the world beyond hanging on the choices they'd make, and the hope they refused to let die. The night thing's roar shook the chamber, stones groaning under the weight of its despair. It lashed tentacles of darkness at the trio, each whip a memory of failure, fear, loneliness. Corin stumbled as anguish battered at his mind. He saw visions, not of victory, but of everything that had ever gone wrong. Teachers who'd never seen him, family that forgot, dreams that faded in the night. He nearly fell, but Lysara gripped his shoulder, her own eyes brimming with resolve despite her trembling hands. "We stand together," she gasped, voice cutting through the night thing's spite. Flint pressed against Corin's other side, whispering the words of hope that had carried him through his outcast days. "Light's never born alone. Share it, Corin." The lantern sputtered, then pulsed. Corin clung to his friends, and to every memory of kindness, belief, and hope that had ever flickered in his life, even if it was small or short-lived. He remembered smiling at strangers, kind words whispered in the academy's bleakest halls, the simple wish for things to get better. Each thread twined through the lantern, golden and real. As if sensing his choice, the lantern shuddered in Corin's hands. Light spilled free, blinding and uncontainable, not just from him but from Lysara, Flint, and the altars and pillars around them. Every memory of hope, every shard of love or friendship, became a star bursting into life. The night thing shrieked, stumbling back. Where once it was immense, now it shrank as the chamber roared with light. The more hope was shared, the smaller the shadow became, until it was only a whimper at Corin's feet. But Corin didn't stomp on it. Instead he knelt, lantern in hand, and quietly offered the spark forward. "It's not just for us," he whispered. "Even shadows want to be part of the dawn." For one heartbeat the night thing hesitated. Then, as the lantern's spark enveloped it, the darkness softened to a faded gray and dissolved like a sigh. The chamber filled with sunrise. The riddle's inscription glowed, complete at last. Hope endures when the world goes dark. Crystal light poured outward through cracks in the earth, blooming across the ruins of Namarith. Above ground the sky blushed gold, and those hiding in fear crept from their shelters to marvel as new light filled their city. The lantern's spark, now no brighter than a single flame, felt warm and gentle in Corin's palm. Flint whooped, tears sparkling in the new daylight. Lysara exhaled, releasing her sword and wrapping them both in a fierce, grateful embrace. "You did it, Corin. We did it. You found the answer." Corin nodded, more overwhelmed with joy than he'd ever imagined possible. He'd been the overlooked, the unlikely, But hope had chosen him, and through that, he'd chosen the world. They stepped outside the temple together. Namarith's people gathered, drawn by the dawn. The lantern's flame leapt from palm to palm, every new spark testament to hope reborn. That night, as the stars winked over a city healed, Corin whispered to the night, "The darkness will come again, but so will the dawn, and we'll meet it together." And beyond Namarith, in cities and forests and far distant kingdoms, those words went forth on the wind, a promise carried by the flame. Hope endures, always.